So this is how we'll survive. By being Harkonnens. Oh, I don't even have the Duke Atreides signet ring. Father, I found my way. Oh, it like comfortably like sits on this finger. Have I lost weight? Okay, no, we're gonna switch back to the ring finger because I can feel the circulation of my index finger being cut off. Before we get into the video, I just want to quickly plug my latest short film, The Shining Optimism of E.F. Manar. Keep the spark alive. As dreamer and optimist E.F. Manar must find a way to keep his hopes and passions alive in a cynical world. Inspired by Wonka and The Greatest Showman, a lot of time, effort, love, and passion was put into this project, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could give it a watch. The film is linked down below in the description, and it's also on the homepage of my YouTube channel. I hope you guys watch it and really enjoy it. Anyways, back to the video. So, episode 1 of HBO's Dune Prophecy has released, and I gotta say, that wasn't good. That wasn't good at all. The overall tone and vibe of the episode was all over the place. One second, it wanted to be like Denis Villeneuve's Dune films. The other second, it wanted to be like Game of Thrones. Then it wanted to be like some next up sci-fi epic adventure. Not to mention the fact that the show was just doing so much and so little at the same time. Like, I couldn't tell you what the story for the season is going to be. I couldn't tell you because the show itself didn't explain anything properly. Who is the main character of the show? I don't know. I'm assuming it's Valia Harkonnen, but like, she's barely in the episode. Like, she is in the episode because the beginning focuses on her backstory, but then she kind of like disappears and is in the background, and then it deals with like the Corrinos and the Atreides, and it's kind of like, okay, who is the main character of the show? Half of the episode is focused on Nez Atreides marrying some other family, I forgot what, but she's a pedophile. Then Travis Fimmel is doing some kind of like dodgy dealings, political scheming, so we can get something, riches, spice, the throne, I don't know. Then there are the students at the Bene Gesserit school that I think, and I'm assuming we're supposed to be focusing on, but they're barely in the episode and it's not really focused on them. Then there's the other Bene Gesserit sister, Kasha. She's having dreams and visions, but it doesn't really matter because she dies at the end. And then Valia Harkonnen has some sort of like mind-altering epiphany, prophecy, vision or something that we can't comprehend because we just see the image of the stars. The plotting of the episode was all over the place. In addition to that, it's also just really low budget. Like, it really wants to be like Denis Villeneuve's Dune films, but it just isn't. There is a lot of TV filmmaking in here, which I just think is kind of baffling. This is the thing. I don't understand the difference right now between TV filmmaking and actual filmmaking, because it seems like TV filmmaking, they just have less time. But at the same time too, when it comes to overall filmmaking, you're supposed to have everything like planned before you step on set. One of the reasons why stylistically this show feels off is because it's trying to replicate Denis Villeneuve's style, but at the same time too, it falls into TV tropes of wide-angle lenses and shaky cam, which is just not apparent in Denis Villeneuve's Dune film. Like, I'm serious, the episode ended and to cleanse my palate, I had to go and rewatch scenes from Dune Part 1 again. Especially considering there are so many moments in this episode that go, hey, have you seen Dune? Hey, this is like Dune. You like Dune? Like, Nez Atreides and her weapons master are just training. They are doing the same weapons training stuff that Paul Atreides and Gunny Halleck did in Dune Part 1. But it just looks worse. The shield effect looks worse. The choreography is worse. There is no precision to the sparring. It just looks unplanned and unchoreographed. And when I say unchoreographed, I don't mean it in the sense of, wow, it was so realistic and so visceral and it felt so tangible. I mean, like, no, the actors didn't really know what they were doing. They were kind of just, like, randomly, like, half-heartedly sparring. Not to mention the mass amount of exposition dumps in this episode. Just every second, exposition dump, exposition dump. But it's not done in a subtle way. It is just unsubtle. We get the backstory of Valia Harkonnen and how she became like the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit. Like, we see a bit of her backstory and how she wanted to like change the sisterhood, but one of her sisters said no, so she used the voice on her. By the way, the voice effect in the show sounds terrible. And again, if they're trying to be like Denis Villeneuve's Dune films, you'd think they would have the assets to do the same voice effect. Get off me! Anyway, she kills that sister, and then like she just somehow like ascends the ranks of the Bene Gesserit and becomes like the Reverend Mother of the sisterhood. And whilst they're doing this, they're just constantly expositing information. These are the values of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. This is what we stand for. But it's kind of like, it's just unsubtle. In many ways, it felt like amateur theatre writing, or like a first-time writer got their hands on a big budget script and was just like, oh, let's just exposition dump. And then there's also the nitpicks I have as a Dune fanboy. Now bear in mind, I've not read all the Dune books, especially the Brian Herbert and Brian K. Vaughan. Those like prequel spin-off books that Frank Herbert's son wrote. I haven't read any of those, but from what I've been told by the Dune fanbase, they aren't good. And I can see why, because this show is based off those books. There was something about it where it just felt unfocused, and I was like, where's like the real story here? Honestly, the biggest, like, we'll call this like a nitpick I have of the entire episode is the fact that they renamed the Butlerian Jihad the Great Machine War. It's like, no. Call it the Butlerian Jihad. What is wrong with you? Why is Hollywood so afraid to use the word jihad? Like, I don't get it. Like, Hollywood has some weird thing of, like, we can't use it, when back in the 80s they could. Like, I get it. The word jihad is connoted with terrorism, with 9/11 and such. But I feel like Hollywood at this point in time should just, like, grow some balls and kind of just use the word, reclaim it for its actual meaning. Because jihad, there are two meanings. There is, like, holy war, and then there's also the meaning of holy struggle, the internal struggle of yourself, which is why Frank Herbert used that word specifically. And so to rename the Butlerian Jihad into the Great Machine War, just... no... Also, I don't really want to see the Butlerian Jihad. Like, there's a reason why Frank Herbert didn't really expand upon it. He just talked about it as an idea, and we didn't see it. Because the show's interpretation of the thinking machines is that they're just big, giant robots that just shot people, and it's like... so it's the Matrix, but, like, way more unnuanced. Also, there's so much stuff in this episode that wanted to be like Game of Thrones. Oh, we're gonna be all adult, and there's boobs through a see-through dress, and oh, they're gonna have sex in the club, and it's like... Dune isn't Game of Thrones, like, it is Game of Thrones, but it's not Game of Thrones. Like, all the, like, sexual stuff is done off-page. We don't actually see it, we don't witness it. Aside from, like, the later Dune books where it gets a bit weird and psychedelic. I'm mainly talking about the Leto and Ganem scene from Children of Dune. Like, if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But Dune isn't Game of Thrones, and it's really annoying to see HBO go, oh, people like Dune, we'll just turn it into the next Game of Thrones, when they're different things. Like, they're similar, and one inspired the other. But it doesn't mean that everything needs to be spun off. Also, the episode itself is just so unfocused. It keeps cutting from one thing to another thing to where I couldn't establish who our main characters were. Not to mention the fact of what our main plot threads were. I'm surprised that's not in the show. Like, how? Why? I mean, to be fair, that is the Kwisatz Haderach theme, so it kind of makes sense that it's not in the film, but like... I'm surprised that the composer didn't try to emulate that in some way, shape, or form. And the music for the show, too, was really overstimulating. Like, every scene is more or less scored, and there's always, like, a banging, you know, Hollywood soundtrack in the background, and not in, like, the, you know, Hans Zimmer way that Hans Zimmer does. You know, Hans Zimmer is very specific and careful the way he, you know, composes his music. This was just like, no, we're just gonna blare music over everything to pretend like there's a momentum to the story. I mean, like, by the end of the episode, I had a headache. I was like, I'm so overstimulated right now, this is just way too much. Also, from a visual standpoint, the show wants to be Denis Villeneuve. Like, it opens up with text. It's the same font as well they use in the film, where it's like, oh... to see through the dark or to see through the vision, you have to see through the white or something. It wasn't really a very powerful and memorable thing, like, compared to Dreams and Messages from the Deep and Power Over Spices, Power Over All. Those are punchy, those are to the point. The one in Dune Prophecy is just, it's really forgettable. Then also, visual language-wise, it wants to be Denis Villeneuve until it's not. It wants to have the big psychedelic prophetic visions, but they don't execute it properly. Denis Villeneuve was very specific in the way he portrayed the visions. He would use, like, in-camera lighting, he would use lens flares, he would also use a lot of the effects to show transitions. But no, with Dune Prophecy, quick, we'll just... everything flashes on screen. It's like, that's not what he did, that's not why he did it. He did it to be kind of, like, meditative about it, but then also in, like, the quick cut visions, they were very simple, quick images, very quick flashes. I'm thinking mainly about the Gom Jabbar scene. Like, there's just, like, a quick flash of the hand, and then another quick flash of the burning date palm. It was very quick, very simple, and very effective. In Dune Prophecy, it's like they just cut one frame from, like, everything they wanted to do and just, like, put it in a row in the editing sequence. To be fair, though, a cool image that I really liked was when Kasha, she's like reaching up for something above her and there's like sand falling. That image was really cool. But other than that, the psychedelic visuals just didn't work for me. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't like Dune Prophecy Episode 1, which is kind of funny because, like, going off the trailer, I could tell I didn't think it was going to be that great. Maybe the story will get better. I mean, the cast for the most part is good. It's just that the storytelling isn't great, and visually it is really distracting. It also didn't help that recently I saw Dune and Dune Part 2 in IMAX with a Q&A with Denis Villeneuve and Riz Ahmed, and like, it was just so cool. Like, seeing those movies back to back was something I always wanted to do. To see it in IMAX was great. To have Mon Ami Denis Villeneuve mere feat for me, that was awesome. That was cool.
The writer, director, and producer of Dune 1 and Dune 2, make some noise for Denis Villeneuve.
Thank you. I just want to say right at first, thank you very much.
And yeah, it kind of doesn't really help that Denis Villeneuve's Dune films are really great, and this is just... it's not very good. In many ways, it does remind me of the Dune sci-fi miniseries, which I am working my way through, but that's rough. It is pretty rough. And yeah, in many ways, the pilot for Dune Prophecy did kind of like accentuate my worries that when Denis Villeneuve finishes Dune Messiah and leaves the Dune franchise, Warner Bros. Is gonna milk it, and not in a good way, and it's just... I'm worried, man. I'm worried. Like, Dune is special, and I feel like that by doing all these spin-offs, you're gonna devalue it. They're gonna turn it into Star Wars, but not for the right reasons. Like, the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood is interesting, and there are stories to tell there. It's just that they're not really telling the Bene Gesserit story like they are, but they're not. But then also there's a reason why Frank Herbert didn't delve too much into it in the books. I feel like the more you know about a universe, the less interesting it becomes. For example, take Star Wars. The more you expand upon it in a less interesting way, the less value it has as a property. As to whether or not I will finish the show is undecided. I will give it definitely another episode, but if I don't like it, I probably won't cover the rest of the show just because it ain't good. If it's not good, I'm not going to waste my time on it. Pilot episodes are made for a reason. They're there to, you know, entice the audience into the story, to get them hooked, to kind of like set out the overarching narrative of the season and kind of go, okay, stay tuned. Here's why you should watch our show. This episode didn't really do that. It was really overstimulating. It was really confusing. I don't know who our main character is. The pacing of the episode was all over the place, and visually it wants to be Denis Villeneuve, but it's not Denis Villeneuve, and it's so apparent. And it's funny too, because Denis Villeneuve was attached to this as a producer, and he was supposed to direct the pilot once upon a time. Like, this has been in development since, what, 2021, 2020? And obviously, as the years have gone by, he's been busier and didn't direct this pilot episode. And I'm assuming he probably looked at it and was just like, not worth my time. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Dune Prophecy Episode 1. I didn't really like it. I don't think it was very good. But those are my thoughts on the first episode of Dune Prophecy. What did you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on social media, all the good stuff. Until we meet again, see you guys next time. And Santa.